What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr. here, Mike Golic Sr., Emerson Latzia holding it down in the DraftKings studio in Boston for us. We are brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GOJO15. Got a great show for you guys. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review, leave us that rating, and check us out Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on DraftKings YouTube, DraftKingsNetwork.com, and Samsung TV Plus. We've got a couple great guests for you today. Richard Sherman, future Hall of Famer, right? Richard Sherman's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
NFL
decades
member from the 2010s, and now currently an analyst on Thursday Night Football on Prime. Going to stop by with us here. I can't imagine what the group chats were like of the old Legion of Boom watching Russell Wilson get 70 hung on his head with the Broncos this weekend.
I'm telling you, I was thinking about that when I knew we were going to have him on. It feels like a lifetime ago at the Legion of Boom, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, what they did, what that defense was. Remember, people, Dan Quinn was there running that defense, now running the Cowboys defense. And that was a great name for them, Legion of Boom, because they laid down the boom. That was back before we started changing some of the rules that we did of what they brought to the table. We'd seen a lot of that decades ago, but they're kind of the last bastion of just DBs that when you went against them, you were either getting covered, like fly paper, or you were getting smoked if you got the ball or tried to get the ball. And man, they were a fun group to watch.
Do you think they share Russell Wilson memes in their group chat?
Have to. Yes. Have to. I wonder if that's cooled off, because a couple of years ago, especially when the trade was getting ready to go down or Russell Wilson was getting ready to head to the Broncos, there were a lot of really raw emotions, and it felt like every former Seahawk kind of had something to say.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's less so now because Russ is just kind of like, he's been fine this year, but the team is really bad. I don't know. What I do know, Dad, is what you brought up. I saw a bunch of early 2000s highlights from the NFL that got shared around, and there was a lot of Cam Chancellor that made its way in there. I'll never forget Kyle McCarthy was a captain for us, played safety at Notre Dame, is now a great agent over at Athletes First. And he was in the same combine class as Cam Chancellor. They both played the same position. And he said, in the combine, you get the number on your jersey, and it's the order you're at in the grouping. And he was one behind Cam Chancellor doing every drill. And he said, I'm never going to get drafted if everyone's looking at him and then looking at me, because we don't even look like we're a part of the same species, let alone play the same position in the same sport, because Cam Chancellor was a certified space alien coming out and dispensing justice back in the day.
I mean, that dude, 6'3", 225. And back in my era, we had a guy from the Cincinnati Bengals, David Fulcher, who was about a 240-pound safety. I mean, and also remember Urlacher at New Mexico State was a safety at like 240, 250 before he dropped to linebacker. But that crew, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Brandon Browner, Walter Thurman, Byron Maxwell. I mean, they were, and to see them start to break up too, they when getting Nick it reminded me of, when I say the Philly defense I was on, I would say our defense, because I was on that defense, but not one of the people that I'm naming here. I wouldn't include my name with the greats on that Eagle defense, but that was the shame there as well. What are the reasons it has to break up? And nothing lasts forever. But, in 93, that's when free agency started, and our owner then, Norman Braman, decided not to re-sign anybody. That's when it all started to break up, for that defense that we had. And for those guys in Seattle, that secondary they had, there's always reasons. And as I said, nothing lasts forever, but wow, were they fun to watch.
Until the Legion of Boom was exposed by the Patriots game plan in that Super Bowl loss.
It is amazing what they were I mean, a game that they still will maintain they should have won if you just handed the ball off. And did the right thing there with Marshawn Lynch. And speaking of exposed, I mean, the Super Bowl before when they played the Broncos, good night. But we'll try and resist the urge to go full Chris Farley show with Richard Sherman when he joins us here in just a few minutes. We'll also talk. It's a Wednesday. Charlotte Wilder is going to join us for the second hour. Oddball's very own, our dear friend, is going to be around with us, breaking down some of the mind-blowing numbers around Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But, Dad, let's talk about one of the defenses that had a player trying to utter its name in the same breath as the Legion of Boom, because we've mentioned the frustration that has to be mounting in that New York Jets locker room. You've got a defense that felt like it was on all-world trajectory, and you've got an offense that after Aaron Rodgers' injury has been struggling mightily. This feels like the meme of the Pawn Stars, where it's like, hey, listen, I can't do Kirk Cousins for you, but I can give you Trevor Siemian. Does this Trevor Siemian signing do anything for you if you're a member of the New York Jets defense or the rest of this team that's been watching the offense struggle?
So, I mean, there's a couple of things here is that, listen, the defense has not been playing like an all-world defense. I mean, certainly statistically not, but they're going to have to be relied on, and more pressure is going to have to be on them than normally would, that they thought they were going to have with Aaron Rodgers, giving up over 350 yards a game, getting run on for, what are they getting run on for? 129 yards a game. I mean, they need, and they have the ability, because we talked about them going in as we thought they could be one of the top defenses, but I think they even realize that they're going to have to pick up the slack even more. And I mean, I don't think Trevor Siemian was the name we thought. Now, the one thing that you have to look for is learning new systems. He was with Nathaniel Hackett in Jacksonville, so he knows the system, so he can come in, he's a smart player as well, so he could pick up the offense. And that's always a fear if you bring somebody in who hasn't been part of, this offense. They have to learn it. But Zach Wilson was going to be the starter anyway, so I think a guy could have learned it over time. Yeah, not the guy I thought of. He's lost his last 6 consecutive starts. He's 13-17, 42 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. A lot is being made, Mike, just of the backing that Saleh has given to Zach Wilson. And I get it. I mean, I get you have to do that. But if it's to the point of worrying about his feelings, that you don't want to bring in somebody that he may be threatened by, or we start to worry about that, that's where you lose me. This is pro ball. It ain't about feelings anymore. And I don't know if that's where it's at, but
it sounds like, according to, so Rich Cimini, the ESPN Jets reporter, said yesterday in his report that the defense in particular is not happy about this, said tensions were on the rise in that locker room. And this is the sentiment, Dad, kind of at the core of what you're saying is what Rich mentioned, is that there's this idea that if anybody else on the team were performing as badly as at their job as Zach Wilson is at his right now at a different position, they would be replaced. It would be handled a lot differently than we see. And this is something you and I have talked about a lot, how people seem to treat this position in quarterback in particular with kid gloves, and how they organize that room or how they go about organizing reps like this.
Yeah, completely agree. And listen, we're to the point. Let's all be honest here. Zach Wilson is not the future quarterback of the New York Jets, okay? Even if Aaron Rodgers comes back next year and can't do it, they're going to have somebody else, or they should have somebody else ready to go. So, and you've heard me over a couple of decades, Mike. I am not one of these, let's worry about, how his feelings, or, what it's going to do to him mentally. Will he be able to play? Is it going to affect him? I don't want to hear it. This is about production. That's what this league is about. That's what pro sports is about. You produce or you get replaced. So, and if that's a reason they didn't get a quote unquote better quarterback. Now, again, it's not like you're pulling any Hall of Famer, into your lineup right now.
Sure.
But if you didn't go in after somebody better because you're worried about Zach Wilson, feeling threatened, then that's on Robert Saleh. Again, I know that's the report out there. That doesn't mean that's the truth or we know it. I'm just saying, if that's the way the thought process is, I'm so against that right now. And as far as the defense, listen, we went through this when Randall got hurt back in 91, and we had the top defense. We thought that was our Super Bowl year, and we went through the Brad Gables and Jeff Kemps and Pat Ryans of the world, and the offense couldn't do anything. Yeah, let me tell you, tensions were high. offense running off the field after, not doing anything and us running back onto the field again, there would be stares. There would be stuff in the locker room. There would be fights. I mean, all the A personalities we had on that team. It wasn't good. And I could see that going on because the Jets, while statistically aren't showing it right now and aren't the most dominant defense, they do have an excellent defense, and they have to pick up all the slack because the offense isn't doing anything. So tensions will get very high. And between offense and defense, obviously we see the tensions going on with offensive players and coaches on the sidelines, which we'll get to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, the injury that prompted all of this. We've heard a lot of noise around this team. You had Joe Namath coming out and saying what he had to say in the media about this the other day. Aaron Rodgers did his weekly hit on Pat McAfee's show, looking like recovering from his Achilles injury, and talked about what this Jets team needs going forward.
This is what teams have to go through. There's adversity points in every season. This year it's happening early, and people are coming for us. And there's, some heated conversations on the sideline and different things. I think we need to hold our poise a little bit better across really just offensively. There's been, I think, too many little side conversations, and we just need to grow up a little bit on offense and lock in and do our jobs, everybody, and not point fingers at each other, and that's everybody.
I did love, and I saw most of this interview live, how far Aaron went out of his way to make sure he was just pointing the finger at the offense. Because, Dad, I think he realizes that for those guys on defense, so much of the name they made for themselves last year was just what you said. Dealing with turnover, sudden change, all these things that put them in a bad spot. They weathered the storm. And I'm sure mentally for a lot of those guys, the lift was, oh, man, this year it's going to be different. We're going to get a little help. We're going to get to turn it loose. And now it's that same old familiar specter creeping back into the picture. And Aaron looking at this situation, understandably going, oh, those dudes are balling in adverse circumstances, even if the stats don't reflect it. I ain't talking about them. Yeah, I'm talking about us over on offense.
I agree, because I think this defense is better than their stats. They've given up 22, 30, and 15, but the offense has scored 16, 10, and 10. 22, 10, and 10. So the defense, you're right. Sometimes you look at stats, it doesn't tell the story, but their stats haven't been great. But they're easily the best part of this team, and the part you definitely want on your side. But the stuff on the sideline, listen, I mean, that's so much frustration. It's tough to not do that, especially when the expectations for this team were so high. 4 plays in, it's gone. Now 3 games in after those 4 plays, it's 1-2. You got the Chiefs coming up. Offense isn't doing anything. There's going to be frustration. Not that you want it every week, but I never concerned myself, in this case with a Garrett Wilson getting animated on the sideline, running back Michael Carter yelling at his running back coach Taylor Embry, them getting at it. I never put much into that. Now, as I said, you don't need to see it every week, but every now and then it's going to happen. And I can understand the frustration going on in that offense, thinking what they were or what they could have been to what they're back to being again right now. And for those that are talking about the Jets, I know Joe Namath came out and said Salah should be gone, Douglas should be gone, so many players should be gone. It's amazing that when Aaron Rodgers was picked up there, everybody, and they started bringing in the pieces around him, everybody thought this was a Super Bowl or a high playoff team, right? With the talent on defense, the talent on offense, and now you lose the one player, and now people are like, sell everybody, get rid of everybody. It's like, this was a good team that was put together, and unfortunately, the key part of it got hurt, and now you have to deal with that, and it's not pretty right now. But boy, just saying get rid of everybody right now is crazy. But this ship, where this ship goes, is on Robert Saleh and the leaders of those teams. And if in fact we'll go back to it, revert back to it, if that part of it is true, and players know it, players know what's going on. If they believe there's a little too much going on that side to the quarterback and not really trying to get somebody out there that may be able to help the team a little more, and they're just not doing it to protect, that's going to be an issue that the players are going to absolutely know about.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words. And I think for coaches, we saw Rob Saleh get up during Hard Knocks and chastise the offensive line after bad practices and hold people accountable. That doesn't go nearly as far if all of a sudden you feel like that's selectively applied or applied in ways that don't make sense given the performance that everybody can see. So that's going to be fascinating. Joe Namath, the more I think about it, Dad, might have just been fighting back for all the 80-year-olds that got attacked in the media this week.
How about it, huh?
Someone's got to put on for their city right now. So octogenarians, stand up. Joe Namath is your champion there. Dad, and Emerson, I should say, it wouldn't be a conversation about quarterbacking in the NFL if we didn't also get the headline about Colin Kaepernick mixed somewhere into this. And we got that yesterday in the most interesting way possible in a while, a letter that was reportedly sent to the New York Jets and Joe Douglas, and this news broken and released by rapper and musical artist J. Cole.
Yeah, Mike, Joe Namath ain't walking through that door, buddy, but maybe Colin Kaepernick will. So part of this letter that surfaced yesterday reads in part, I know that there are currently depth issues at the position, and I've heard the backup spot is likely to be filled by a veteran quarterback. As much as I would love the opportunity to fill that spot, I'm writing you in hopes that you can imagine a much different approach involving me. I would be honored and extremely grateful for the opportunity to come in and lead the practice squad. So once one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL here, Junior, he's begging NFL teams to play on the practice squad. He's almost 36 years young. In my opinion, kind of the mere fact that this letter actually surfaced and came to light makes it even less likely the Jets will offer him an opportunity. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're so far past the conversation about Colin in the NFL. Like, it's just, this is a time thing now. His plight and what he went through at the moment, I absolutely sympathized. We all saw the situation. We knew it had nothing to do with football at that point, and that the reasons he was off the field were reasons that now, in hindsight, the people involved who are on the decision-making side in the NFL seem to talk more openly about the fact that, yes, that was wrong. We've heard as much from Roger Goodell and a bunch of the leadership. So I am always and will always be sympathetic to Colin's plight, because I do think he was on the right side of history in a lot of ways in those things. But Dad, it's been like 6 or 7 years now. He mentioned he's in his mid-30s and hasn't played football in all that time. It's just not realistic anymore, and probably hasn't been for a while. So while I think it was an incredibly well-worded letter, and anyone out there looking to write a resume and get it out to a potential employer should take note. The tone here, everything about it was A1, but I just don't think the football conversation's realistic with him anymore.
No, I completely agree. The letter, I was surprised when I read it. I thought, okay, he's going to say, hey, I can come in and help your team and be the man. But no, I'll be the practice squad. I'll prepare the defense. I thought the letter was incredibly well written. And I understand what you're saying about, what he did and how he certainly got blackballed from the league. Now let's cover both sides. He had a part in that as well, in how he handled some of the situation when the workout was set up, when other things, and some of the things he did in the protest that he made really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So some of it I understood, some of it I thought went too far. He did liken the NFL to slavery. So a lot of people are saying, why do you want to come back if that's what you called the NFL? So there are two sides to that. But the football side,
I still think ultimately he was blackballed from the league for reasons that had nothing to do for performance. So he should have been playing football.
For that part, you're 1,000% correct. What teams didn't want to deal with, and I would say the same thing here, because you're right. From a football standpoint, he absolutely should have been on somebody's team and would have been playing. But teams didn't want owners, I should say, and we know the difference of owners and these players. I won't say teams, I'll say owners. And we have talked about this. We all know the problems we have in the NFL with some of the older owners here. They didn't want, and I still think it would be, because a lot of people would read that letter and say, yeah, look, what harm can it cause? He's on the practice squad. It's no distraction. But just what owners don't want is they think he would be a distraction, that all of a sudden the spotlight would be on him. And then what if they brought him in, and what if they cut him? The team would get ripped, and what would go on with that? So it's not even back then. It wasn't, you're right, it wasn't his football that he got blackballed for, and that was wrong. But now he's just been out too long, and I just don't think any team's going to say it's worth what's going to come along with it. Not how he would play as a player, but everything else that would come along with it. Maybe, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, the last couple of years, maybe if he would have said, I want to play so bad, I'll go play in one of these other leagues, USFL, XFL, just to show you that I can still play. I don't know if that would have helped. I don't know if that would have hurt. I have no idea, but I do not think a team, in this case, the Jets, are going to sign him.
What I do know is he listed a bunch of references on this resume that included Mark Davis, who, listen, with a banged-up Jimmy Garoppolo right now, maybe is another call that you can make on the way. Coming up next, we'll make the call to Richard Sherman to look ahead to Thursday Night Football and some reactions to headlines around the league next here on GoJo and Golic.
All right, back here on GoJo and Golic. Thirsty Thursday night football tomorrow night, pairing up a couple NFC North rivals. Let's go, baby. The Lions aiming for their second straight win in Lambeau Field against the Packers, who are more than likely very motivated after Detroit ended their season last year. And the Packers, how about this note, GoJo? 28-4 against the Lions in the state of Wisconsin since 1992. But again, that does not include Week 18 last season.
Yeah, for all the talk, Dad, about Aaron Rodgers, you know, he texted Jordan Love after the Bears win and made the joke about transferring ownership there or maintaining ownership. For all they had there, that was one of the more embarrassing ways to end a season and really to end a tenure that we've seen in a while for Aaron Rodgers, and what's kind of fitting into that Lions narrative about that plucky underdog team and what they had been versus what they're trying to be now.
Well, listen, I called that game. I was there, and I had talked about how empty a field was. You know how you and I like to go on the field for the respective games we're calling to talk to players and coaches. I was down on that field and no players were out. Maybe the kickers were out, but nobody else was out. They were all in the locker room watching Seattle play because that was going to, everything in this game was going to be based off that result. And from that result, obviously the Packers still had a shot, and right there at home, and Detroit just beat them, flat out beat them. So as far as motivation, listen, that was our own fault, of letting that happen. And more kudos, I should say, to Detroit. And it just added to our arrow up factor on them going into this year of how they closed that season out. It was a great game for them. And listen, off of just one loss this year, and the trajectory is high right now. But this is a big game. I mean, Emerson just gave us the record of what Green Bay has at Green Bay. So Detroit has to go in and do this again if they want to start being, thought of as, okay, we're one of the top teams in the division, and then try and move forward from that.
Dad, did you have a team that you guys played when you were in the league where there was kind of a mental hurdle? Because while I don't know if it necessarily exists just with this team, because they beat them last year, like we're all talking about, but for the Lions, they're a road favorite in this game heading to Lambeau. We just saw that up there. Like, this is a team in Detroit that's trying to show it can be the best team in the division now. It can make and go and take that mantle from a Green Bay team that's played pretty well, that got a dramatic win in Jordan Love's first start at home at Lambeau as the quarterback of that team. This does feel like a kind of get the monkey off your back situation if you're Detroit, where you can go out in a big-time game, primetime setting, and say, we're going to be the team of choice in this division now.
Yeah, I mean, you have teams where they have something on you, whatever it is, to even where you're on the sideline during the game, even if things are going well, you're kind of waiting for that shoe to drop because you've struggled against this team. You have their number. We had the Giants number for a bit. Washington had our number for a bit. It would flip-flop sometimes, but it would, make you think on the sideline at times, we're in a good position right now. What's going to happen? Something usually happens against this team that costs us, and you're just trying to stay away from it. So, mentally you do think about it if some team kind of has your number.
For more on that and what we're going to see on Thursday Night Football and around the rest of the league, excited to welcome in now former All-Pro and Super Bowl champion and current member of the TNF on Prime analyst crew, as well as on Undisputed over on FS1, Richard Sherman joining us now here. What's going on?
Not much. Another day in paradise, baby.
All day, every day. Richard, we were just talking about that mental hurdle as we get a division game coming up on Thursday night for the Detroit Lions here, trying to show they're that team to beat there. How real is that factor, do you think, in that locker room?
I mean, it's a different team. I think this team is one of those teams that's too dumb, too young and dumb to know any better. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It was just like last year when Seattle won the game, and then everything was riding on Detroit and Green Bay. And if Green Bay wins that game, they go to the playoffs. And if they lose, they don't. And everybody's saying, Detroit has nothing to play for. They have nothing to play for. They're just going to mail it in. And, of course, they did not. They went on to win that game and make sure Green Bay did not go to the playoffs that year. And that may have been their Super Bowl, may have been their championship, may have been the thing that got them over the hurdle. So I don't think they're going to have any of that going into that game.
So looking at this Green Bay team, especially the quarterback, you go Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. That worked out pretty damn well. Aaron Rodgers now to Jordan Love, who is outside of his completion percentage, has played pretty well. What have been your thoughts of him early?
I agree. I think he's played really well. I think he's thrown the ball really well. He's been accurate. His footwork looks a little sloppy at times, kind of similar to Aaron's, but Aaron was Aaron, so he could get away with it. But you can tell he sat behind Aaron. I'm sure we could, if we look back at Brett Favre, we could see some of Brett Favre's bad habits that Aaron Rodgers committed. But I think overall, they got a good one. I wasn't sure about him. I was not a believer initially when they moved on from Aaron. I did not think, hey, they're going to do it again. But he's played solid. Like you said, his completion percentage needs to improve for sure. And I think that may get to him, maybe an Achilles heel later in the season when people start to catch some of the errant passes that he's throwing. He threw an interception last week, I believe. But, I think he's going to be a good player. He showed a very clutch gene down the stretch last week that he didn't show in Atlanta. That was impressive.
What about on the other side? Jared Goff's a quarterback you got a ton of familiarity with. How different does he look? Is this a better quarterback than the guy you saw all those years in the NFC West?
I mean, he's a better quarterback than he was when I saw him his rookie year. But he looks about like he looked with Sean McVay and the LA Rams. He played really good football. I don't think people ever gave him credit because they gave Sean all the credit. They said, hey, Jared Goff isn't a great player. It's just Sean McVay pulling the strings and making these passes and doing all that. And, of course, Sean went on to replace him with Stafford. He came here, and he's still very consistent. If he gets his feet set and he gets a clean pocket, he's a pretty good quarterback in the National Football League. He's going to get the ball where it's supposed to be. It's going to be accurate. It's going to be on time. So he deserves a ton of credit. It's about keeping him clean, and that Detroit offensive line has improved over the years in doing it.
Richard, let's go around the league a little bit here. Obviously, headlines with the New York Jets. And there's the Colin Kaepernick issue, which we could talk about. But from the quarterback position, as a player, take us back into the locker room. If reports are true, and we don't know if they're not, I talked about this earlier, but if your head coach is somewhat protecting your quarterback to not feel threatened by not bringing in a more viable backup that could be ready to go, the rest of the talk about how the rest of the team may sense that and what effect that may have on the locker room.
It's definitely going to cause some frustration and some angst, especially among defensive players. You know, they felt like they've done their jobs. They held New England to 15. They've held offenses relatively in check as best you can when your offense is getting put to 3 and outs majority of the time. They're not holding on to the ball very long. So I think there's definitely some frustration. And then there's some like all is lost moments as a defense where you're just like, I'm sure the Denver Broncos went through it last year where it's just like, hey, our offense can't figure it out. We're winning games 10-11.
It's got to be wild. Speaking of that Denver Broncos offense, what was that like watching that happen? I mean, obviously you're very familiar with Russell Wilson, and really he wasn't totally the problem in that game. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I mean, I haven't seen 70 points in an NFL game, that's for sure. Yeah. And that wasn't the Denver offense that gave up 70 points. So that was the more concerning thing. That was a defense that at times last year looked like a number 1, number 2 level defense. Had really good players, and still Patrick Surtain was out there. Justin Simmons didn't play, but I mean, it's really concerning because you're like, how did they fall off the cliff this bad? They were a top 5, top 10 defense last year. Now they're 32 in almost every category. And a lot of the same guys are still there. So you just wonder what Vance Joseph is doing with those guys. And is he motivating them? Is he putting them in positions to be successful?
Richard, we appreciate the time. We're looking forward to this game coming up. Thanks so much. Everyone, again, can continue to check you out on so many of the great shows you're a part of. We appreciate the time, man.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Dad, I mean, listen, that frustration, I think he's absolutely right with how the rest of the team could perceive that. Especially, we had built it up so much. They were the story of the offseason here. And if there's any player that knows a little bit about feeling like the quarterback might be getting treated differently than everybody else, it was certainly Richard Sherman and the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, we could have used an hour with Richard there. There was so much to get to, and so many of the parallels, them having, the type of defense they had, the Jets having the defense that, that they have. And when you're looking at the other side of the ball saying, you guys got to do something for me here. Now, they did obviously win a Super Bowl. They did go to Super Bowl. So there certainly was some success there, though, in Seattle.
Yeah, no, something tells me they're still going to be able to eventually look back on that and feel pretty good. Coming up next, let's head back to college. A changing of the guard at the top of the Heisman Trophy race, coming off an epic weekend of ranked matchups. Next here on GoJo and Golic.
Yo, how about this? First time this season, we're like 4 games in, that Caleb Williams is not the favorite to win the Heisman, gentlemen. That right now, that distinct honor goes to Michael Penix Jr. of Washington, plus 360. Caleb Williams still right behind him, top of the board, plus 400. The Pac-12, Junior, is the conference of quarterbacks this season in 2023. There's no question about it. Penix Jr. through 4 games, I believe only 2 picks, 16 touchdowns, and close to 1,700 passing yards. Now, the road ahead does not get easier, but nothing right now says that this guy is going to be slowing down. Who gets your vote right now through 4 weeks?
Oof, man, through 4 weeks, Dad, I feel like after this weekend, too, I don't know what it was because Washington played Cal, which wasn't a barn burner.
Right.
You know, people have respect for, Wilcox and what that program's been. But a 59-32 win over Cal, combined with the rest of the results of the weekend, as I think had some resurgent Washington Huskies talk at the top of national media. I think they got a couple of first place votes in the AP poll this year or this week when the voting came out. I would probably still lean the incumbent Caleb Williams. And Dad, this is going to be one of those things where styles make fights because we know the way Caleb plays can be a little more off script. I saw Todd McShay was on with Rosillo the other day and did the Mahomes comps, which I think are accurate. Like, I think as far as what he's doing in college football, it's not an inaccurate comp. But for Michael Penix Jr. and that Washington offense, they've been a buzzsaw through the first portion of the season here. Give Kalen DeBoer and company credit. They have a great scheme there, but you got a quarterback with a howitzer throwing to 3 future NFL wide receivers. It's been fun to watch.
And listen, that's been a big thing for them. 2,000-yard receivers, and both have come back this year. So his arsenal remained full, and they're a big play team. You know, that's how they roll. It's throwing for over 1,600 yards, 400 more, over 400 more than Caleb Williams. Now he's throwing the ball, I think, 30-some more times in those games. Caleb Williams actually has a higher rating, 223 to 209, but you mentioned touchdown, 16-2 for Penix, 15 and no interceptions for Caleb Williams, and nothing like, you were a Heisman voter, correct?
Oh, I am. Buddy, I am.
I meant am. I didn't mean were. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw that out.
Don't you try and steal my vote from me. All right?
That's my fault.
I understand some people want to poo-poo and act like, no, I respect the Heisman Trophy. I respect the trust. I am a proud member of this, and you will give me the respect I'm owed. So
I will.
You don't.
I apologize. I'm not as big a fan of the Heisman. It's just you call it another quarterback award. Pick a great quarterback and name it after that because that's what it always is.
Unless you're an enlightened voter like me who had Blake Corum as third in the Heisman ballot.
Well, there you go. Okay, so we need more enlightened voters like you. But so let me ask you as a voter, when you're and we'll just stick with these two right now, how much do you put on head-to-head? They play November 4th.
Yes.
So how much of your voting thought process goes to what they do against one another?
It's like we always talk about with quarterbacks, and we used to do this with the Brady Peyton Manning matchup, is they're not playing against each other. So I'm not going to overweight that too much, but it's about quality opponents, and that's what they're going to get out of that matchup. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, seeing these eye-popping numbers early in the season is box checked, right? You're coming out, you're playing clean, you're blowing out the opponents you're supposed to blow out. But for both of them, the advantage for everyone who's watching from a voting perspective and even from a fan perspective is we're going to get to see them go best on best in the middle of the Pac-12 schedule we've talked about, where everybody plays everyone, where Washington plays Oregon coming up soon. They play SC. They play Utah right after that. They play Oregon State after that. You're going to get to see them against a bunch of grown-up football teams and get to judge based off that. And that's going to make this conversation really easy because, Dad, I can already tell you how this is going to go. We've watched Heisman voting fluctuate a lot in recent weeks here. What's coming up this weekend? Washington's getting ready to play a little Pac-12 after dark.
Right.
They've got Arizona State, they've got Arizona coming up this weekend. They're on the Pac-12 network, and they're playing a 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern kickoff there. Very few people are going to pay attention to or watch that by and large versus USC, who's getting ready to play at Colorado on the noon Eastern kick on Fox. And they're going to blow the doors off them. Like, we know Colorado's going to be able to put up points because everyone's been able to put up points so far against this SC defense. But Caleb Williams and company, there aren't enough points you could give as far as what I think they could potentially score based off what they've done. And because it's Colorado and because of the renewed attention around this program, you're going to see SC get a lot of light shown on them, and that's going to include Caleb Williams. I would be stunned if he is not back number one in the Heisman odds come this time next week after that game.
Heisman odds are one thing, but then what you're basically saying, it comes down to you and those like you who are voting to not let that come into play. So odds can be whatever they are, but that shouldn't affect the voters, right? That shouldn't affect you and all the other voters on what time anybody plays. I don't want to hear that I didn't see Penix play because it was too late. I mean, if you're a voter, that's, and I don't mean you. I'm just saying.
Listen, we over here in the Heisman voters, we do our homework, all right?
Wow. All of them? Do you know that?
Accusations that somehow anyone would not be watching the football games of the players they're going to vote for. That's shameful by you. I feel disrespected on behalf of the trust.
So your argument about the odds shouldn't matter then, right? It shouldn't matter what the odds are, correct? Because voters are so good and pure that you could see through all that.
I'm not saying that has any effect on the vote. I'm merely telling you the way we've seen the popular sentiment go and the conversation around all these players, right? This last week, what did we have? Bo Nix take a massive jump in his Heisman odds, coming off a game where the national audience finally had to reckon with Bo Nix because they were playing the Colorado team that had been the story of the season. It's going to be very similar with USC this coming week, and round we go. What I'm saying is, no, you can throw all that out. I'm going to tell you how the coverage cycle is going to go because I also work in this job, but from a voting perspective, I always enjoy seeing. And Dad, this is the same way when you scout guys getting ready for the NFL, right? What do you do when you're going to go back and watch a player getting ready for the draft coming up in April and May? Is you want to see what they look like against other NFL caliber players, what they look like against the best competition. And that's what we're getting ready for in the meat of this Pac-12 schedule.
And speaking of the Pac-12 schedule, I mean, 6 ranked teams in the top 20. Since we're talking about those two quarterbacks, their teams, USC still plays ND, Utah, Washington, Oregon. Yeah. Washington still plays Oregon, USC, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State. I mean, this is one of those where, man, are all the teams going to end up with 2 losses and find themselves on the outside looking in when 1 or 2 of these teams could be good enough to be there at the end? We'll see. But it also made me start looking at the quarterbacks overall. If it's these 2 for Heisman, listen, Sam Hartman, if they could have won that game, I think he'd be right there because, you know, his rating is right there as one of the top in the country, and he has 14 touchdowns, no interceptions. Shedeur Sanders, we were talking about him after week 1. He has 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. His rating's a little lower. But the number that I noticed, Shedeur Sanders has been sacked the most of any quarterback in the country. He has been sacked 22 times. God knows how many more hits that is. Well, we knew going in to the Oregon game, he had been hit 55 times, and God knows he was hit a bunch in that game. So the beating that he is taking and the expectation for him to hold up for all the work that he has to do, because we know the emphasis for Colorado has to be on both lines of scrimmage, but that just stood out to me as he's been having a hell of a year, just to see how much he has been just knocked around in that pocket.
Shedeur Sanders, I legitimately felt bad for in the midst of that Oregon game. He's a phenomenal player, but he couldn't breathe without someone in a green jersey punching him in the chest during the course of that game. And that is going to be the challenge from here on out as they hit the meat of the Pac-12 schedule, is just, can he be upright long enough to do the great things he's done? I've always said, when you scout Shedeur Sanders, he's not a true dual threat quarterback. He's mobile enough to get you out of some trouble, but he's not going to outrun a lot of these backside defenders. He's not going to scamper off a ton and make plays like that happen. He's much more of a pocket passer, a buy time and keep his eyes downfield kind of guy, but you still need some time to make that happen. And we'll see. You know, we saw Deion Sanders posted the video receiving the text message from Travis Hunter about how he's got to be back out there and playing. He told him, I love you more than I love what we need from you on this team. But eventually, if you get Travis Hunter back out there, you've got so many weapons on offense, you can try and reverse engineer this thing and offset some of that line conversation. But Dad, there's no doubt it is an uphill battle for him, especially in this conversation now as the uptick in competition hits.
Yeah, completely agree. And keeping Travis Hunter off the field is the right thing to do. That's a smart move by Deion Sanders.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we'll see who else may be on or off the field heading in to another weekend of NFL games next year on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. Dad, before we get to some injuries, a podcast that may break records got dropped today. New Heights with Jason and Travis Kelce finally talking about the Taylor Swift appearance at the Chiefs game this weekend. We will get more to that off the top of the next hour as Charlotte Wilder joins us here. Very excited to get into all the details there. But, Dad, not a lot I've seen yet from the quotes coming out that I can really take from this. Travis just talked about how cool it was seeing the reception she got from everybody up there in the booth, them driving in the getaway car going after. We heard about the spot that they apparently rented in downtown Kansas City after, where Taylor and Travis's family and teammates all went and partied there. So sounds like a pretty good setup overall, but I'm still waiting for something revelatory to come from a podcast that's going to break download records.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know if we're going to get that from them, that they're like officially dating. I don't know if it's going to go down that road. That was a pretty casual thing, it seemed, and kind of, seeing which way the wind blows on this one. I don't know where it goes, but God knows I know you and Charlotte are going to love to talk about it. I know I'll get a break at the beginning of next hour because you guys will be jumping all over this thing.
Dad, I did see a couple of my buddies in Marshall Newhouse and Gabe Eichert over on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio did ask the question, and I'm going to ask Charlotte this, but I'd ask you. You get to rent out one restaurant for a night. Bring over your significant other, all your friends, your teammates, whoever there, and you get to take it over. Do you got a restaurant that you'd have off the top?
Probably. Wow, that's a really good question. It'd probably be a place in Scottsdale where there's a really cool place called the Living Room, which is very chill, very laid back, couches, chairs. We kind of love going and it's a great hang place. And that's what you're doing really here, right? You just want a place to kind of hang. That's right off the top of my head. I could call that.
I do appreciate that when we did this in fast food, that off the top of your head, you default to the most hyper specific, which apparently, again, in this case with Travis Kelce, it was a very specific local place that they ended up going there as opposed to picking. And the producer, I got to give a shout out, John Lund, who's the producer for them, offered up a Taco Bell cantina, the Taco Bell that you can drink at.
Yes.
See, that's an enlightened pick. I was going to say, oh my God, it's perfect because you get a little sauce later on, you get a little drunk, and you're right there next to the food that you were already going to eat once you were wasted.
And you don't want to go to a swing, like the place I'm talking about is very laid back. You don't want to go to any kind of highfalutin place at all, even though everybody there could afford that. I don't want the white tablecloths and the nice, silverware out there. Give me the table, the paper that you can color on.
Yeah, you want good vibes. You want good energy, like a Chili's or an Outback.
Oh man, I was thinking too, because you always get dinner and a show, a Waffle House.
Yes,
Dad, I feel like that'd be right up your alley. Bring the homies to it. And it's got, honestly, the setup. It's a nice open floor plan for the most part, so I feel like you get the best chance to cross-pollinate vibes.
Let me tell you, if you could just keep kicking out Waffle House waffles, the only problem is they're not very big, and if you're inviting the team there, I don't know how well that's going to go. What was interesting is the place that he rented out, there were customers in it. They had to shoo them out. I think by 8 o'clock was the time. They were actually going around telling people you have to be out by 8. And when it was getting close to 8 o'clock, those that still had food on the table, the waiters and waitresses were actually walking around with boxes for them to box up their food to get the hell out. So they were serious about, you need to get out. And they interviewed somebody who was in there, and we asked the server, is this where, because we heard the rumors that they were going to go out, Taylor and Kelce, after the game, are they coming here? And they said, the waiter said, I cannot confirm nor deny that, but either way, you got to go. So they booted everybody, passed around boxes to go, and got them out of there.
Would that make you feel better, at least on the back end, that you got kicked out for Taylor Swift? Because if it came out the next day that it was anybody else, I'd have been hot. I'm not a guy that leaves Yelp ratings, but that would have probably prompted a pretty bad Yelp review or two if it had been anyone else but her.
One of the things they did, too, is they have like a sister bar that was close to there, and they gave everybody there a bunch of free drinks. To say, okay, we're making a leave here, but go over there, drinks are on us. So it seems like they handled it pretty well. But I sit there, wouldn't have a problem. I don't know how far down the list of celebrity we would get to where you would say, you know what, I'm offended at this. they booted us for this person.
Damn.
I don't even know if I want to start bringing up names, but there's got to be a line somewhere, right?
The menu at this place is pretty impressive. Like, they've got some really delicious looking sushi. There is some pizza options. Prime sliders. Their sliders are $6 each, which both Kelsey and Taylor Swift can't afford. But
Wait,
some
each
of the
slider
usual,
or the
each
three
six,
sliders?
That's the price of a burger.
$6
That's a burger.
each. Golic
Just buy a
prime
burger.
sliders. Yeah. And then there's the
Wow.
spinach and artichoke dip. That's $14.
Yeah, but
Truffle
spinach
fries
and
are
artichoke
11.
dip, that's-
Yeah,
Let me tell you what. Yeah,
Wow.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
They have a 24 karat cake truffle, warm chocolate chip cookie. We're in the sweet tooth department of the menu, and then a Manhattan chocolate drop, and that's $4 each.
The other one I would offer here as a place that would be great for this would be a hibachi restaurant.
Dude,
Onion
oh my
volcano.
God.
yes.
And you could get Britney Spears with her butcher knives, like
wow.
preparing the onion volcano for you.
Oh, someone needs to get those dogs out of there.
It does bring up the point because you're talking about prices. At when is the last time Taylor Swift looked at the price of anything? And I
Years.
guess Travis Kelce for a while
decade.
too, but more her. When have you ever looked at the price tag? Hell, my own daughter doesn't look at price tags, so I can't even imagine that Taylor Swift hasn't looked at a price tag since she was probably 10.
No, it's a beautiful,
Shout out to
it's a beautiful
Sydney.
thing.
Shout out to Sydney.
whatever,
Listen, she's
Emerson.
eating right
Stop
now.
it.
She's eating for two.
Yeah, don't encourage it.
Speaking of injuries and finances, let's look at some injuries in the NFL. Dad, Derek Carr looking unlikely for this weekend with the sprained AC joint. Saquon Barkley considered day-to-day for the Giants right now. But I think as important as anything, Dad, Bryce Young right now, status still uncertain. And for him and Anthony Richardson, who's still in the concussion protocol, these are valuable reps as rookies that you really want to see him get all of, especially in the Anthony Richardson camp. The whole point of getting him out there was, yeah, you want to take your lumps early, unfortunately, not physically, to get these guys as up to speed as possible so you can reap the benefits in the coming years.
I get that in the long run, but in the small picture, I am kind of happy Andy Dalton may still be the quarterback this week, because last week to Adam Thielen, 11 receptions on 14 targets, 145 yards. You know why? Do you know who Carolina plays this week? They play Minnesota. So you don't think Adam Thielen wants to have himself a game against his former team, a team that didn't want him anymore, and Andy Dalton was getting the ball to him? I am in our Sunday, game that we play amongst our group for DraftKings of fantasy football, I'm just saying right now, I will be taking Adam Thielen. He is going to want to have a game. This one is at Carolina. The Minnesota defense has nothing to write home about, and you don't know Dalton is going to target him if he's in there playing. So, yeah, Thielen is going to want his in this game.
Boy, I don't know. I just don't know physically how much gas Adam Thielen has left in the tank for that. But again,
For this, his former team, I guarantee you he's going to have a lot of gas.
Yep.
I mean, he might, but those are also a bunch of guys that know him too. Like, we do this all the time in coaching and playing matchups where they're like, oh, but this guy was an assistant somewhere and he's got experience. Like, they know him too. And that could be a dangerous game for them. But it's also, Dad, to that point there, like, it would be fun. I love a good revenge game as much as anybody else. But unfortunately for the Panthers at this point, even good production doesn't really benefit you in the long term from Andy Dalton right now. Like,
Right. No, I agree.
Being a good football team this year, sans Bryce Young, really ain't going to help the cause there when your future's been decided at that position and really the overall trajectory of the franchise now.
This is just me selfishly wanting Thielen this week and seeing him play against his former team. Because, as I've always said, whether it's amicable or not, when you play your former team, there's a little more juice to it for you. But you're right. At the end of the day, you want Bryce Young to get the reps, whether he gets his nose bloodied, his eyes watered, whatever happens. But you also, if he's out now, you want to make sure he's right before you get him back in the game. Because the most important thing is for him to get reps this year and not have anything lingering throughout the year. So make sure he is right. If he's not, let Andy Dalton play for a couple of games if need be. But I still think Bryce Young, barring any more injury, is going to get the majority of the snaps this year.
He's going to be a name people are looking at. Jameis Winston, Devon Achane or Achan. I think he's trying to change the pronunciation.
It's Achan now, Mike. It's Achan.
You might be picking them up on the waiver wire. We're picking up Charlotte Wilder as we head into hour number 2 here next on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic, hour number 2, Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and it is Wednesday. We had to move some things around schedule-wise, but that just means you get a little bit of time released. Wilder Wednesday, our great friend Charlotte Wilder, you can catch her co-hosting Oddball over with Amin Al-Hassan covering the NBA each and every day. But here with us, chomping at the bit to get to the biggest headline in sports. Charlotte, how have you recovered from the Taylor Swift shockwave sent through the NFL this weekend?
I haven't. Have you? Are you okay? I'm not okay.
No, absolutely not.
No, I can't say, Mike, the thing that I keep coming back to is when you tweeted, "This is my Roman Empire."
It is.
I was like, do you know how many times a day I think about Taylor Swift? I'm not proud of it. It's just she leaves you with so many questions that it becomes like a little puzzle to try to figure out. And the best take actually that I've heard on the Travis Kelce stuff came from my husband, who was like, I think that this is the first time they met. He was like, I don't think it's that it's not real or that it's not they're not dating or, talking to each other. But he was like, it very much seems like maybe they were like, let's just lean into this. Travis was like, come to the stadium. My mom's going to be in the box. And Taylor was like, okay. And then they were like, let's see if we like each other.
I mean, dating in your 30s is getting to the real stuff a lot quicker than you would have otherwise. Like meeting mom as someone in your mid 30s early on just seems like, hey, let's skip the fluff and see if this can really work, Dad.
Yeah, Mike, we're still waiting for that. Your mother is still waiting to meet someone. So just, you brought it up.
I'm glad you were able to peel the glaze off your eyes. You look like you wanted to be dead when me and Charlotte got running.
Hey, listen, but I do agree with Charlotte. I don't think they had seen each other before, and I think they're just going to kind of see where it goes. I don't foresee anything serious. Again, I'm not going to get into breaking down. Oh my God, I'm not going to. You guys are dragging.
Dad, let me give you some numbers here. You're a numbers guy. You're a big nerd over there.
That's me.
What Charlotte is to being a wife guy, you are to being a numbers guy. And so I want to bring you some numbers here that we've got coming off this weekend. Emerson, do you mind laying this out for us here? Because we saw the bump from Taylor Swift felt not only by the NFL, but also by Travis Kelce himself. Maybe
I got you, which he's already said this morning on his podcast. He said, that ish was hysterical. It was definitely a game I will remember. Then we just slid off in the getaway car at the end. So yeah, the numbers go like this. A 400% spike in Travis Kelce jersey sales. Kelce's podcast ranks #1 overall on Apple. And as we mentioned earlier in this show, guys, it's probably going to do historic numbers today in terms of downloads. Kelce adds almost 400,000 Instagram followers. So there's the answer to your question earlier in the week, Golic. 24.3 million viewers watched that game, #1 game of the week, and 63% jump in female viewers ages 18 to 49. The Swift effect is absolutely freaking real.
Guys, can we talk about how this was the Bears?
Oh.
This was the biggest game of the week, the most watched game of the week was Chiefs Bears, where the Bears lost by 30 points. And one of my low-key favorite parts of all of this is Swifties not familiar with the NFL. Also, I'd like to say, I think there are a lot of Swifties who are familiar with the NFL.
Sure.
And I think a lot of them are playing up the fact that men might think they don't know. Like when all these women on TikTok are asking their husbands and boyfriends, like, it's really cool that Taylor Swift put Travis Kelce on the map. And then the boyfriend gets really mad. And he's like, what? He's like the best tight end ever. And it's clear that they're trolling him. But I do think that it's, for those who were not familiar with the NFL, the fact that they were introduced to it with this Bears team is one of the funniest and saddest possible outcomes of this entire situation, Mike.
That does have to be really tough if you're a player on the Bears. Because I'm sure there's a couple of people in there that are like low-key Swifties, or at least aware. We saw all the reaction shots in the stadium that were going around of people that appeared to see Taylor in the box at the beginning and were pretty blown away. I'd have to imagine there were a couple of people on the Bears that are like, I'm never going to play another game in front of a pop star in my life, more than likely, or surely in front of Taylor Swift. And that's the taste that we left in her mouth. That's tough scene.
You really think a football player is going to think that?
There's got to be like one or two guys.
I mean, okay, listen. The Taylor Swift effect, I am not denying. She is.
The numbers are there.
Right
Can't
now.
deny
It is
it.
absolutely.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Numbers guy.
monstrous. All right. I'm not a numbers guy, Mike. God, me and numbers. Are you kidding me? Though I can do simple math.
You like math? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So here we
7, 8,
know
9.
the story. We know how cool it is. We know the uptick for Kelce. We know, Mike, I saw your TikTok that, hey, if it brings Swifties to the NFL or NFL to become Swifties, cool, all cool. I get all that. Let me ask you guys questions, okay?
Please.
First and foremost, if you, either one of you, Charlotte, I'll start with you, and you had got in front of Taylor Swift and had one and only one question to ask her, what would it be?
Oh, do you want to hang out?
That would be your question?
No.
So-
Yeah, it'd probably be like the, like I would like say, hey, do you want to exchange numbers? That's like the genie where you ask for more wishes, because then if I had the number, I'd be able to ask more questions.
I also think that, I don't know, I think she and I would be great friends, let's be honest. But I do think that there are probably the fact for the Bears players that not only it's Taylor Swift, but it's a pop star of that magnitude, which means so many people are watching. I think that adds a lot. It's like, oh no, like my friends from high school are tuning into this because they want to see Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and I happen to be a casualty in this great war, if you will.
It's so true. It is the reminder, like you said, for a lot of people and a lot of those boyfriends that were getting trolled, that there's a much bigger world outside of ours in sports than what's going on.
Yes.
And to see that pop up and happen, like I remember, like a weird tangent, but Bachelor Party, Julia Lippman over at The Ringer does a podcast that covers The Bachelor. I have never received more messages in my sports media career for appearing on one show than that show, because of the following around that particular venue. And so to Charlotte's point, there are way more people, more casual eyeballs tuned in, and they're like, are the Bears always like this? And unfortunately, recently the answer has been yes.
I think a lot of people who follow me because I used to recap The Bachelor. Like, I think that's the thing that people call back to me the most. I also think that when you're in sports media, not to talk about sports media or get all meta because it's very boring, but I am going to for a second. I think when we're in this world, there are a lot of people who think this is what everybody cares about. And I think what people sometimes fail to understand, and something that for me is a bit of a pet peeve, is when we talk to an audience as if they know every single name we're talking about. Like, most people couldn't tell you who the coach of the Jets is. Like, most people in America, you say Robert Saleh and they're like, okay, who? And I think that a lot of times we don't identify who people are as a way to sort of keep those people out. To be like, oh, you're not in the club because you don't know all these names. We're not going to help you. It's a little bit of this, like, we want to, I think sometimes in sports media, we want to feel like important and exclusive. And like this stuff is very heady. And so for something like this to happen, and then people realize like, oh, wait, people in America don't even know who Travis Kelce is it's sort of a nice reminder of like, okay, let's stay a little humble here. Like, let's realize that there is more out there, and then bring more people in. That's what I loved about this.
Yep, 100%. It that moment was perfectly summed up. I think I saw it was Will Compton on Bussin' with the Boys was talking about this, and they pulled up and reminded him the NFL's Instagram account has 27 million followers. Taylor Swift has 272 million on there her damn self. So it's a completely different weight class that everyone's playing at, a completely different end of the pool that we've all dove into, Dad.
Listen, Charlotte, I talked about this Monday, just exactly what you're saying, and you're correct. Said, we live in this world where people are amazed that they don't know it. And I talked about my time, on Mike and Mike at ESPN when Greeny was interviewing Ben Affleck and said, actually asked Ben, who do you think is more popular, Jennifer Lopez? This was when Ben and J-Lo were together the first time. Who do you think is more popular, J-Lo or, I think at that time he said maybe Tom Brady or Peyton Manning? And Ben was like, are you kidding? It's not even close. And it's also thought when the Super Bowl last year was 115 million, I get people to sit there and say, how can only a third of the country, of the population of the U.S. be watching this? It's like, because the majority of people don't know or don't care. They don't care about the business that we care about so much. And it gets, every now and then there are things that happen that make you go, yeah, you know what? That's right. We're not as popular as some people think. On that note, last question I want to ask you guys about this, and I don't mean to be a downer about it. I hope these crazy kids.
Do.
Yeah, you do. You know what you're doing.
But let's go on the track record of them, okay? Especially one Taylor Swift. When as I said, I hope the crazy kids figure it out and spend the rest of their lives together. Next year at this time, when we're doing a Wilder Wednesday, will they be together?
No, and who cares if they are?
I don't care. I'm just asking the question.
Either they won't be, or they're getting married. There's no in between here.
I think
it's going to be forever, or it's going to go down in flames.
I think it goes through the entire NFL season. That's how long it lasts.
You know what, Dad? You can tell me when it's over if the high was worth the pain. Because I know they've got a long list of ex-lovers that'll probably say they're both insane.
The high to who? The high to you or Charlotte? I mean,
to the NFL?
He's throwing Taylor Swift lyrics at you.
I've got a blank space, guys, and I'm gonna write it.
Okay. Are you throwing into me? You think that's gonna work? I mean, I had you text me a line in the game with the Raiders in Pittsburgh just so I could sound hip. I couldn't pull one out myself. Charlotte, I had Mike. I text Mike before calling the Pittsburgh Raiders game. And I knew it was a Sunday night game, so I knew me and my partner Ryan Radke were going to talk about the fact that Taylor Swift was at that. And at first I text my family, and Mike was involved in this. I said, because they're all Swifties, I said, guys, give me some lines that I could use to sound cool. Charlotte, the amount of lyrics and songs that got thrown at me, I was dead confused. And Mike finally put a stop to it and said, guys, he doesn't know any of this. And I finally texted Mike outside the group. I said, Mike, just give me a couple sentences. And he did. So I got to use it on air to hopefully sound pretty cool. But, it's wasted on me, Mike, if you try and hit me with a line, because I'm not quick enough to pick it up.
But it's not wasted on me. It's not wasted on me.
What do you say? Take the main character energy out of this. This is for Charlotte and for all the people who needed to know that do know there. Also, put it on the poll, Guillermo. Has anyone who said the word hip actually ever been hip? We will try and get to the bottom of that. Charlotte, I want to look at some of the rest of the NFL weekend with you and get to the bottom of a conversation you had with a New York Uber driver about what's gone on with the Jets.
Yeah. I paused to take in the greatness of this moment. I was in a car, and the Uber driver was listening to ESPN New York radio, or whatever it was, and it's sort of quiet, low level, and I've registered this, and I'm like sort of trying to listen, but I was also like, this, let him keep it at whatever volume. And then they're like, and we're going to talk to Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the Jets, and he turns it way up. And I was like, oh, good. And so and they're like, Joe Namath said that Zach Wilson just isn't the guy and played the Joe Namath sound. And then they go back to Garrett Wilson, who's like, well, we're all trying to prove him wrong. And like the saddest half-hearted, like we believe answer. And I just was like, ugh, poor Garrett Wilson. And the Uber driver like whips his head around. He's like, you care about the Jets? And I was like, well, no, I like sports. And he laughed. And then he was like, I'm embarrassed to tell you that I'm a Jets fan. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah, obviously. And I was like, what do you think about Zach Wilson? He goes, I think that man is related to the owner. I think they are doing whatever they can to keep him around because the only answer is that it's nepotism, because even a snail on a rock could tell you that that is not a professional football player. And I feel so bad for the other players who only have a short time to make their mark in the league. And I was like,
Wow.
I was like, well, that's the best analysis I've heard. Also, hilarious conspiracy theory that Woody Johnson is like Zach Wilson's, great uncle or something. But
now that we've got
on a
Swifties
rock,
in the universe, they'll find out if he is related or not. We need to get them on that.
yeah, seriously. But a snail on a rock was like,
What a line.
Even a snail on a rock.
That's a great line. And he didn't it doesn't sound like he had to search for that line. Like it just flowed naturally.
No, that's his thing. He says that. He's a snail on a rock guy. But I mean, Charlotte also not incoherent analysis about how the rest of that team probably feels. We talked about that with Richard Sherman when he was on the show before, about how these other guys understand they are being treated differently at their positions than he's being treated at his position, and the message that sends to the rest of the team.
I mean, I just think everybody's in an absolutely impossible spot. I think good management is largely about putting people in a position to succeed. And Zach Wilson is not being put in a position to succeed. He probably hates this as much as we do. Like, this is awful. This is embarrassing. To have Joe Namath say, I wouldn't have drafted him, and to come in for the second year in a row when you weren't supposed to be there and then fail so miserable. It's like, put this guy out of his misery. Like, take him out too. Bring somebody in. This isn't good for Robert Saleh. This isn't good for the other players. It's just like, and it's sad to me. Like, it's a little funny in that it's the Jets because, of course, in that like very sad way, but it's just like really, nobody is winning here, literally and figuratively.
I think one of the things that adds to it is it's the Jets, and the Jets fans have lived, this life of waiting for the shoe to drop, because what they've done, it isn't something that hasn't been done before. Okay. Now, you did have Zach Wilson as a backup, even though he had failed as the starter. But you go back to the Colt days, and I had known this, and I heard Jeff Saturday talking about it, and it reminded me of it. And Bill Polian, I mean, Hall of Famer, one of the great GMs of all time, they had Peyton Manning with the Colts, and that was it. I think the backup was Painter at the time. It might have been somebody else. But they even basically said, if Peyton Manning goes down, our season's over. And he did go down the 1 year, and they won like 3 games. I think that's where the Jets were. Unfortunately, they built everything around Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So it's over. But because you're a Jet fan, that news didn't really go crazy with the Colts, because it was the Colts and it was Indianapolis, and everybody just kind of pushed them aside. But because it's the Jets and it's in New York, and the Jet fans have such a history of things going wrong, and they were finally built up as the team was built up, and then it just got shattered in 4 plays, I think resonated a little more and had a little more cachet. But it was the same deal. This was built with Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, and he went down. So that's basically kaput. But it's the Jets, and everybody loves talking about the demise of the Jets. So all of a sudden, a team that everybody thought was a playoff team and maybe pushing for the Super Bowl, not just because of Aaron Rodgers, but the defense and the players that you brought in on offense. Now Aaron Rodgers is down, and you got people saying blow the whole thing up. It's like, well, wait a minute. You thought you had some good players there. Now what are we doing?
They tried to do, and I'm sure feel like, what the hell, we got shortchanged of what Tampa Bay tried to do, about what the Rams did, all the great effect in winning Super Bowls, and they didn't get the good part. They just got the second year where everything goes to hell and everyone starts getting hurt. But that is the Jets' existence almost entirely here. Charlotte, was there anything else that stuck out to you over this weekend on the good or the bad end from the NFL?
I mean, I was thrilled that Joe Burrow pulled out the win. I thought what he said was really interesting about, Jamar Chase is over there being like, buddy, do not play if your calf is hurt. Do not mess this up for us long term. And that Joe knew himself and his body well enough to be like, you know what? I need us to not go down 0-3 more than I need this calf to be given another week. And to me, I'm like, oh my God, because Joe Burrow is always doing things like this to us. But it worked. And I think that made me very happy. I really want to see them succeed. And I just think that Miami is terrifyingly unstoppable, guys. I don't love it personally as a Patriots fan, but it's like, we've never seen this before. Like, they would have set the points record if Mike McDaniel hadn't been like, you know what? Mercy rule, which is also hilarious.
Mercy rule at 70. I mean,
yeah, let's stop the
just
bleeding
do it.
here.
Just
exactly.
do it, Mike.
Exactly. Just do it. As we have talked about, this is pro ball. Man, I'm not going to worry about Denver's feelings on this one. Set the record. You're never going to be there again.
I think it's more rude that he didn't do it. I think it's more rude that he was like, I'm not going to set a record against you. I'll do you the favor, which I love. I absolutely love it. So petty, beautiful. Mike McDaniel continues to amaze, and I'm talking a lot with my hands today. Wow.
I mean, you've come to the right show for that. I don't know if either me or my dad would ever be able to get a word out edgewise without somehow moving our hands around and gesticulating there. We still got plenty to get to coming up. Big Sads trying to right this ship this weekend for Notre Dame, and looking at a popular meme and trying to decipher next. All right, welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Charlotte Wilder, Emerson Lazio. We got full house here today. And in front of the congregation, Charlotte Wilder has asked for a place back up at the pulpit. I know some of you in the crowd might be over our Taylor Swift conversation, but we're doing it for the ones who understand and need this content and been waiting for this moment to come for a long time. And Charlotte wanted to confess something to us, and so I want to give her the space to do that.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'll make this quick. I know people are sick of this. I know, but okay. So
No, they're not.
as I'm in this Uber yesterday, before this man gives me his expert jets analysis, we were driving and it was raining and he had his hazard lights on and we were in bad traffic. And I was like, "Sir, do you know you have your hazards on?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he was like, "Because this way, if someone rear ends me, they can't claim they didn't see me." And I was like, incredible logic, but the ticking of it was driving me insane. So I was like, okay, I respect that. So I put my headphones in and I just went to, whatever popped up, the Lover album by Taylor Swift. I click it, Cornelia Street comes on. And as I'm sitting in this car trying to drown out the clicking of the hazard lights, I hear the lyrics, filling in the blanks as we go, as if the streetlights pointed in an arrowhead leading us home. Arrowhead Stadium. Has Taylor Swift been planning this for years? Is this another mastermind situation leading us home? Are they going to get married? And I was like, I started thinking these things and I tweeted it. And then I reread the tweet. And I was like, I wanted to reply to my own tweet and be like, haha, just kidding. I know I'm crazy, but I wasn't kidding. And so I'm saying it here now to tell you, I know that this is insane, but this is how far this whole situation has infiltrated my brain. Also, maybe I'm onto something.
I was to say, listen, I don't think you're wrong. This woman planned out an entire concert tour this summer so that the final day of the show would be August 8/9, where she could announce the re-release of the album 1989. She's not above this stuff. There's also a song called, I think it's Mary. I forget which album it's off of, where she says, "I'll be 87, you'll be 87, I'll be 89." It's like, dog, come on.
Yeah,
the signs are all over the place.
Guys,
I know.
I will add this. So on the podcast that was released this morning, I don't know if we're going to get much more details from Travis Kelce on this relationship, because he says, what's real is that it is my personal life. I want to respect both our lives. So everything moving forward, I think me talking about sports and saying, all right, now, will have to be where I keep it.
All right. Now, you know what? Honestly, not surprised. Smart. Probably straight from the desk of Tree Payne in the Taylor Swift PR department. So he's smart to read the statement as it was written to him and get back to just listening to Jason talk about Twilight movies and whatever else they were going to do.
That was hilarious, by the way. And can I just say, Taylor Swift is in your guys' head so much. She must just sit back and smirk at all the people that tweet about they're trying to figure this out or figure that out. Oh, she said this line because of this or this line because of that. Man, she is so in your guys' head.
Bro,
wow.
I spent like 45 minutes on Google solving puzzles the other day for that woman, so she would release the vault tracks from 1989. Yes, she owns, forget like rent-free and all that stuff. She's got a palatial estate in my head. She's got property, not just a home. She's got acreage.
This is why I am very happy that my mind is an inch deep and a mile wide. I do not dive down any further than an inch, so none of this affects me in any way at all. And I'm very happy about that.
No matter what she does.
I got to bring that to my therapist.
Yeah.
No matter what she does, it becomes a phenomenon. Like the fact there was the picture of her. Charlotte, I want to get your input on this. There was the picture of Taylor Swift sitting in the suite. There was the boneless wing on her plate, and then there was ranch as one dipping sauce. There was ketchup on the other. Now, I do believe chicken nuggets.
Likely ranch.
I believe chicken nuggets dipped in ketchup is a first-degree felony. But the thing is this, the Chiefs Stadium food provider says they have now increased their supply of ranch in suites after this picture started surfacing and making its rounds on social media.
No.
I
That's
don't
like
even know
the
what to
Mean
say.
Girls quote, like, I saw Taylor Swift eat ranch, so I ate ranch.
Yeah.
That, by the way, also just reinforces, as Taylor Swift's a Pennsylvania native, Pennsylvania is the Midwest, spiritually and otherwise. Philadelphia is not really, but like the rest of Pennsylvania, definitely spiritually Midwest if you're bringing ranch to the party and making ranch great again. I love that for ranch, by the way.
Yeah, but we're not doing chicken nuggets dipped in ketchup, correct? Because notice how they're not increasing.
All the time. The people that slander ketchup on hot dogs and chicken nuggets, that's ugly. Emerson, honestly, I expect better from you.
No. I'm a ketchup on a glizzy guy, ketchup on fries, ketchup on a burger. There's something that doesn't mix with my pristine palate when I dip a chicken nugget in ketchup.
My thought on all that stuff is when people talk about pineapple on pizza, that's not pizza. Yeah, it is.
Good.
Yeah,
It's
that's
pineapple
delicious.
on pizza.
It's great.
It's good
and
pizza.
If other people, I personally don't like it, but I'm not going to sit there and disparage it. I'm not going to say you can't put, ketchup on a chicken nugget. If you like ketchup on a chicken nugget, put ketchup on a chicken nugget. What the hell do I care?
With one
Grow up.
exception, I think people who eat their steaks well done are monsters.
Thank you.
Why?
Thank you.
That's I'm generally with you on most everything, but for some reason, steaks being cooked like a hockey puck bothers the hell out of me. I don't know what it is.
That's a you problem.
But I don't know how people can like it.
Well,
It's
they
not
do.
good that way. It's dry
they
and crappy.
do.
It's just
I
protein.
haven't-
Like if you want to just ingest a bar of protein, they got them at the gas station. I ate a bunch of them when I was trying to gain weight in high school. They taste like crap. You can go do it that way if that's what you want out of the equation. If it's just as simple as I need to hit my macros or whatever. But if you're going to steak, you're usually going for taste. And why would you rob it of all the taste by cooking it well done? It makes no
Wow.
sense to me.
This is the most angry I've ever seen you, Junior.
It really is. And it's about
These
food. That's
conversations are always actually very embarrassing for me because I'll eat literally anything. People are like, "What food do you hate?" And I'm like, "Well done steak, yeah, I'll eat it." Like I really don't think. Like I have to think hard.
That's great.
I don't love coconut, but like I'll eat
Oh,
it. That's
yeah.
as close as I come. Anyway,
I'm with
do
you.
you guys
I'll
want
eat
to
coconut.
talk about Notre
Yeah.
Dame or what?
Well, we're trying to avoid that.
Yeah,
obviously,
I've been trying
Charlotte.
to
I can
filibuster
tell.
here.
I
I
can
knew
tell.
avoid it.
Lou Holtz clapped back at Ryan Day
Yeah.
the other day and basically said spot the lie from his comments going into the weekend. Charlotte, was that one of the more hilarious subplots of a college football weekend you've seen in a while?
Yeah, when Ryan Day goes, "Where's Lou Holtz?" I was like, "What?"
Yeah. It's a little
What am I-
much.
Imagine if
like-
we had presented Lou Holtz. Do you think he would have kicked his ass?
Yeah, probably. I mean, also like I wouldn't totally blame him, but like no, I'm kidding. I think I don't know. I think that the whole thing is like the fact that they won in a walk-off and the first thing Ryan Day says is "Where's Lou Holtz?" I was like, college football is just the gift that keeps on giving. And
Yeah.
also I'm really sorry, you guys.
Oh,
I didn't text you on purpose. I didn't text you. I didn't text Jess. I was like, I think you need some space right now. But going into this weekend, are you like, do you have any feeling left or are you just dead
Mike is
inside as
calling
you
the
head
game.
to Duke?
Mike
Well,
is
I'm-
calling the game. That's
Oh, dear God.
Oh yeah.
honestly, that's better though.
That is
because when I'm
better.
calling a game, I'm focused on doing the job. I've got to tell the story of both teams. I'm excited to talk about this Duke team that's been really good, especially on defense through the early portion of this season. And that'll almost be a distraction. When I watch the game as a fan, that's when the feelings creep in. Here I'm there to do a job.
So I'll have no doubt that you will be fine. You will be unbiased. You will do your job as an analyst. Here's the beauty of it: is your games that you do for Learfield, they have a live shot of the booth. So while it's on radio, you can see Mike in the booth. So while you will do a great job verbally because it's radio and being unbiased, your motions will are
I'm telling
going
you,
to be unbelievable.
Not going to be an issue.
things.
Oh no, I promise that's not going to be an issue for me in this game. Like,
Okay.
I'm a different person when I'm working. After the game, different story. It'll be like coming back down off the adrenaline rush. But no, like anyone tuning in there, you're going to see a professional. I don't understand, Dad, between you disparaging my Heisman vote and now this, attacking my professional credibility on air.
I said you
That's
were going to
dirty
be
stuff.
professional. I said you were going to be very professional, but that
Oh my
didn't
God.
mean you couldn't mime something, have that look like of disgust if something bad happened. You will handle it professionally. I get it. But I just said your actions might be interesting.
Let's get to the actions of the internet next and make my father try and explain it to the rest of us. All right, I want to get to some of the reporting and the rumors around Damian Lillard and New Jersey photoshops of him at the Toronto Raptors with Charlotte Wilder, who, again, you can catch every day with Amin El Hassan. Oddball is the podcast. It is a phenomenal sporting podcast.
Thank you so much, except Mondays.
Except Mondays. Sorry. Apologies. Except for Mondays. Don't come there looking for Mondays. Come here on Mondays. And then Tuesday, pick right back up with Oddball. Get your NBA fix. We will get to that. But I was amazed sitting around here during the break. So every so often, new meme drops. Everybody dives into it. And rarely do I see that from my parents. But yesterday, as Kevin James, the star of King of Queens, all of a sudden had a Getty Images photo making the rounds and getting memed into oblivion, I saw my mom jump in on the fray. Even she got in. My dad and my mom watch King of Queens religiously, as well as Everybody's Loves Raymond, all those early 2000 sitcoms. And so they were all in on this. I was not prepared for Charlotte Wilder, someone who is of the internet, like me, terminally online, coming over here and saying she did not understand this new meme format that apparently my parents have mastered.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. What? You were surprised that I didn't get something? I feel like I am Mike Golic Sr.'s age at heart, and I mean that as a compliment.
Thank you.
There are so many things that I don't know. My best friend sent me a meme yesterday, and it was, what's the word for when you're really smart, but you don't know anything and can't figure stuff out? Wait, that wasn't even it. See, I don't even remember what the meme was. But I don't get it. Why is Kevin James suddenly circulating?
I'm not really sure how to explain it, but what it does remind me is that so much of meme culture is just catering to the right audience. Like, so much of our generation's obsessed with SpongeBob stuff. If they start dropping more early 2000 sitcoms memes, like, God forbid a Brady Bunch picture ever makes the round. My mom will be the internet's main character for a couple of days.
Let's do it.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind it here. Getting King of Queens brought back into the mainstream is a great coup for America right now. One of the all-time great sitcom theme songs heading into a show. Doug Heffernan, one of the all-time great characters. Kevin James at the height of physical comedy during this series. It had it all, Dad. Like, you guys have good taste on this. I'm not mocking that. It's just your guys' religious devotion to these shows.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, and King of Queens. So those are the ones that we definitely watch all the time. The Kevin James, listen, I'm not going to lie. It's a tweet that said me after one double rum and diet. You know,
and it's Kevin James looking sheepishly there. Yeah. It's kind of like those memes that went around where it was like, hey, my friend over there thinks you're cute. And then the friend is like some ugly guy or weirdo. Like, it's Kevin James looking uncomfortably mischievous.
And I didn't sit there and go, oh, I get it. I don't really get it. It's just a look on Kevin James' face. To me, it was, oh yeah, the Kevin James, yes. Everybody
I was getting weary.
King of Queens. Yeah,
I get it.
Getting tired.
Yeah, I get the emotion of it. I was just like, why? And I'm into it. Can we go full screen on me for a second here? Can I do my impression of the Kevin James meme? I think I do a really good one. Ready?
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
New Charlotte Wilder meme just dropped. That was a good smirk, Charlotte. You look like the emoji.
I hope somebody.
Thanks. I
snapped a
also
picture
love
of that.
physical comedy.
I think you look more like the Debbie Downer character in SNL when you make that face.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I look like Rachel Dratch.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Side by side.
Oh,
Let's
she
go.
nailed it.
Yeah, she really did. All right.
Oh my God.
Touche.
Well, you know what? Physical
Pretty good.
comedy is in an audio medium is always what people are looking for right now. As our memes explained online, that is what does it meme. Guys, let's get away from Kevin James. Send us at GoJo and Golic your best Kevin James memes if you want to online. We'll retweet the hell out of them because it's finally a meme format catering to my parents. And I love that.
Love it.
To bring a new generation into the fold of the internet. Charlotte, apparently we're bringing a new team into the fold of this Dame Lillard stuff here. What can you tell us about sources now putting not just in the conversation, but the Toronto Raptors apparently is the front runner to land Dame now?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. All of this confuses the heck out of me. I was talking to Amin about this yesterday, and I was like, can you explain it to me like I'm 5? Because, I was under the impression that, okay, if it's not directly to Miami that Dame goes to, then there will be a multi-team trade. And that's what Amin was sort of saying is still he thinks is likely to happen. But, then this report comes out and it's like, yeah, Portland wants OG Anunoby. Like they don't want Tyler Hero. And to me, until something happens, there have been so many rumors and so many facts flying around that I have not been able to. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There are a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. So I think to me, the most fascinating thing is the Portland fan base's reaction, because I think it's gone full circle. I saw something online where someone was writing like, don't act like the Blazers owe Dame anything, and talking about how much money Dame has made. He was like, it's not that like he's earned more money than like most NBA players. Like by the end of his 4-year deal, he'll get to like almost $500 million, and then like being very careful to walk it back and be like, I'm not saying that they gave him that, like he did earn it, and it's to me what's so fascinating is like how much does emotion play into it on both sides? Like how much would the Blazers? I mean, I don't know how much sense it makes for the Blazers, really, but I think on Dame's part, I would understand it. Like when Kawhi went to the Raptors from the Spurs, the Raptors had a team that was capable of winning a championship, and they did.
Yep.
Dame going there, I don't know that they have that going on right now. And I also think that when people say like, oh, he's ring chasing, what do you expect? This is one of this is a Hall of Fame player who needs a ring for people to be like, oh, okay, we get it. It's Dame. And it's because of people like us who are like, well, if he didn't win a championship.
Oh, but Charlotte, it's like his former peers too. I think I saw Steven Jackson the other day cut a video where he said players choosing to go get an extra $50 to $100 million over getting a championship. He called it a loser mentality. And that kind of stuff coming from inside the fraternity invites more feelings like that, Dad, from the outside. We see it all the time, especially in that league where that kind of criticism authored by current or former players about the league they were participating in fuels discourse like this.
Yeah, it does. And listen, as I've always said, players have different reasons for wanting to go somewhere. Money, chase a ring, geography, family, whatever. They have different reasons, and everybody's different. And I'm of the belief, Charlotte, that nobody owes anybody anything. Okay. Yeah. Portland paid Dame a hell of a lot of money, and Dame produced for them for years. Now, if they're going to part ways, it is incumbent upon the team to get the absolute best deal that you can get. And maybe the flirtation with Toronto is to get Miami to offer more there as well, because why would they care if it's Toronto or Miami? It's in a different conference. So what? Their job get the absolute best deal you can. You'd like to help out a player who's been loyal to you, but at the end of the day, this is a business. It's nothing personal. It's you want to go, you're a high commodity. We need to get all we can in return for you.
I will say this has all been a reminder. Dame's just not good at this. Like, we've seen what James Harden's been willing to do. We've seen in other cases how uncomfortable players are willing to make teams. And we might be getting to the point now where as training camps begin to get started and the NBA season is going to be back soon, deadlines drive results. But Damian Lillard has not displayed a willingness or an aptitude beyond a certain point to try and make his current employer uncomfortable enough to get what he wants with absolute certainty, Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden's out here being like, I'll sit out training camp. And Dame, we haven't seen much from him. I mean, obviously you're right, Mike, that, teams don't owe players anything. I also don't think, though, that the Blazers would do anything. And again, we talked about this on Oddball, and Amin was saying it too, like, they're not going to do anything out of spite either. So,
right.
I think that it really does have to make sense. And I'm hopeful for all parties that it does become a multi-team trade. I want to see Dame end up in Miami. I want to see him play with Jimmy and Bam, assuming they don't give up Bam in the process, but I don't see that happening. We'll see what happens, guys.
This is Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Finishing off a Wilder Wednesday here. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Charlotte Wilder, and Emerson Latzia. Let's finish the show off the way we always do with this, that, and the third. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review. Leave us that 5-star rating and check us out here 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday. Also, do the same for Oddball with Charlotte Wilder and me and El Hassan every day but Monday, Dad.
Mike, I just want to, before we do this, I do want to mention, because this was my era, the passing of Brooks Robinson, the former great Baltimore Oriole. Obviously, you guys didn't see him play. He was the magic man at third base, the hot corner. 18 All-Stars, 2 World Series titles, an AL MVP in 64, World Series MVP in 70. He was unbelievable to watch at third base on how he handled grounders, and that it was. I just wanted it to say, wow, what a player! 86 years old, and his what I saw from him on the field was incredible, and just wanted to definitely acknowledge him.
Certainly, rest in peace to Brooks Robinson. The hot corner is one of those things you say, and I'm like, oh man, all right, this guy knows baseball. It's a definite baseball buzzword. This Stugatz is very strong in you. The hot corner.
Yeah.
Brooks Robinson getting after it. All right, no, that's absolutely a life worth celebrating, and like you said, that impacted a lot of people there. Rest in peace to Brooks Robinson. We will make the transition back to this, that, the third, get to 3 quick stories that will help you finish off your day and head into the rest of this one. And why don't we start? Name, image, and likeness finally reached nirvana, the enlightened state where we can now all prosper and enjoy peace, as Iowa Pork put out an ad with 4 players from the Iowa State Cyclones. No, none of them were suspended for gambling. Instead, they were lined up in a row to remind people to purchase more ham and bacon. And they were done using the 4 Iowa State football players, Miles Purchase, Tyler Moore, Tommy Hammond, and Caleb Bacon, that all came together like Voltron. We've seen over the years Chris Long and Fletcher Cox with the Long-Cox combination on the sideline, all walked so that this moment could fly, Charlotte. It was beautiful.
It is, you know, the account Art But Make It Sports?
Yes.
If you don't follow Art But Make It Sports, follow. This is art and sports. That I hope that account just tweets out this picture. It doesn't need anything by its side. Hang it in the Louvre.
See, you are right. It doesn't need any more, right? This encapsulates everything, because in front of it, it has a big ham and a huge plate of bacon, which, by the way, is making my mouth water because I am a bacon freak. Got to be a little crispy, though, as well.
Yeah, you are.
Bacon freak. Why do you say it like that?
Yeah, that was nasty.
Listen, I am a bacon freak. I will get bacon, and I will get it more well done.
What are you going to do with it, freaky boy?
I'm going to eat it by the pound is what I'm going to do. That plate of bacon, I would finish that plate of bacon. It is phenomenal. But, again,
bacon like groceries.
Point, there is no more that needs to be done except for that picture, for that ad. It's fantastic.
GoJo and Golic after dark, just senior, talking about the ways he would eat his crispy bacon.
Freaky with the bacon.
Oh my God.
All right.
My favorite part of this, I'm okay. My favorite part of this is where it's Hammond as the and.
Yeah.
Buy more Hammond bacon. At that to me is the real art of this entire situation.
Yep, it's great.
It really is. He was the last name that had to be the ultimate glue guy, because everyone else, one word. He's got to be the connecting piece there. 48 looks like a linebacker or maybe a tight end, something like that. So joins the pantheon of guys like Nebraska's DeColdis Crawford doing the air conditioning ad. This one for Iowa pork producers. Put it in the Hall of Fame. Guys, let's get to that. And Emerson, a tough moment for the Arizona Cardinals, who, remember, while they've enjoyed some early season success, authored a big-time upset this past weekend, were one of those teams that got a lot of bad things said about them in the NFLPA report card. And I think Josh Dobbs would like to add this to the list.
And this was going viral on his TikTok account, which is now blowing up. So this was Saturday night. This was before they upset Dallas on Sunday. Josh Dobbs goes into what I believe is the team store and tries to customize like his jersey, and he's not there on the list of players. The starting quarterback for the Cardinals, not there on the list of players to put the name on the back of the jersey. Of course, now that has changed. The team quickly remedied that situation, and I'm sure he sold some jerseys after that upset against Dallas. GoJo.
There's no doubt, but Dad, another tough look for the Cardinals organization trying to look like a well-run outfit here. Tanking also includes not acknowledging any of your players exist.
Yeah, that was a bad one there. And we know when they did that vote from on the inside with the players around the league, the worst, facilities and how players are treated. Arizona did not fare well here, and this did nothing to enhance their stand at all. This is just a bad mistake by them.
You know what he needs to do is just be like, I'm actually dating Taylor Swift, and
Oh,
then
boy.
his jersey.
There goes his jerseys right off
Yeah.
the
Well, remember when
Wow.
those accounts used to just constantly put out like Quentin Nelson from the Colts has reportedly been seen hanging out with Taylor Swift,
Yeah,
and they would just keep adding people to the list. Maybe Josh Dobbs can do, at the very least he can enjoy a nice meal that he can take home paid for by the car. Oh no, that's right. They've got to pay for their own meals out of their paychecks to eat them at the cafeteria there. Cardinals, lock it in, man. Figure it out. Don't make it so obvious. Your team's bailing you out of what seemed like a pretty obvious tank job here now. The least you could do is, by the way, maybe give a guy the jerseys to give to his family of his own, considering he's playing football for you. That doesn't seem crazy, but these guys also have to pay for their own tickets. All of that's kind of reminder of how this system works, but weird one for the Cardinals. Let's get to the third, guys.
All right, so the third, right? The third is Dancing with the Stars, Adrian Peterson. And
Adrian Peterson making his debut on Dancing with the Stars. Dad, this was yesterday. You and Mom watched this a bit. What's the scouting report looking like?
Listen, we have seen, former football players, Emmitt Smith being one of them, win the mirror ball, I think it's called. So we've seen athletes, and especially football players, do pretty well in this. So I thought he did pretty good. Moving around. They said he was a little stiff and wanted him to kind of loosen up a little bit, but he's one of those. It was the first night last night, and this is the first year it's been back. It's been behind the paywall for a bit. Now it's back on regular TV, so we're able to watch it. And I thought he did pretty good, but the thing about it is it was the first night, and you could see that he is going to be good at this. He just kind of has that natural ability and pretty good moves. I don't know if he's going to win it, but as I said, football players have fared very, very well here in the past.
I used to recap Dancing with the Stars. There was a period of my life where I did that, and I think athletes always have a leg up, and I think more athletes should dance. And I would like to learn how to dance, and sometimes I try, and I'm very, very bad. So I have the utmost respect for anybody who can dance, and we'll see. I think wasn't Jerry Rice on it? And
Yes, he was too. Yes, he was.
Good. Wait, Charlotte, did you
great.
not dance like at your recent wedding ceremony?
No, I mean I can dance, but I can't
Oh, well, you just said you
tango.
couldn't. Okay.
Yeah, she can't do like a foxtrot or a waltz.
Yeah, I would
Dances
like
that
to
have
do
A
money.
couple
one.
beers will fix that.
Yeah, well, right.
So
That is always the worst part of every wedding for me, is when someone inevitably, because at some point in every wedding, someone from one of the wedding parties is going to grab you, usually like a mom or something, and they like to do the dances where you get spun around here. I never know the cadence for those. Like, I didn't grow up doing those, and so it always puts me in a really uncomfortable spot where you get caught in the middle and you're trying not to break someone's elbow. Then it's terrible. I hate it.
Yeah, and the people doing it. Listen, these are people who maybe want to get back in the spotlight a little bit or something, but I'm always interested in the cast. Barry Williams from Brady Bunch is in this.
Speaking of Brady Bunch.
So many people. Jamie Lynn Spears as well. She did a pretty good job. Mira Sorvino is in it. I don't know a lot of these. One was introduced as a Twitter influencer. I mean, so I'm completely lost on that one.
TikTok or Twitter?
Charlotte, I don't know.
It has to be TikTok.
One of those
No
things.
one
Charlotte, my
calls
dad
themselves
No one's a
Twitter.
Twitter. If
Yeah.
My
Twitter
dad calls
influencer were a
text
thing,
emails now.
Oh,
I have
this
a
was
lot more money.
a famous Venezuelan YouTuber actress. Okay. At 18 million subscribers. So YouTuber and actress. So
God,
there you
this
go.
is slowly world melding with The Bachelor and the way that they have to font most of these people, which, by the way, Golden Bachelor starting tomorrow.
Oh, there it is.
Just when I think I'm
You
out
got
the
it
game,
in.
Mike, can we do a
pull me right
breakout
back
pod?
in. Coming up, the breakout Golden Bachelor coverage from me and Charlotte Wilder. If you're looking for that, download, subscribe, rate, review. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.